Alright, I think I'm gonna have to hit the button. Unless we're live. Oh, we are live. Yes, we are. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. I saw we had 2 people patiently waiting here. Shout out to you guys. This should be a pretty interesting day in the stock market with Power Hour, and it's been an interesting time. So we do have our Power Hour spaces starting in about 10 minutes from right now, but I kind of wanted to start this a little bit before that and get the chance to just talk to all of you guys and talk through how the day has been so far today and just kind of that stuff and what we're watching for into this Power Hour. Let me get this up here as well. This isn't the busiest day of earnings. Let's give it a second for 1 or 2 people. I did just send out the messages. Isn't the busiest day of earnings, though. Unity Software will be at 4:30. Ooh, no, yeah, still 4:30, a little later than you would hope. Dropbox, Mara. I know a lot of you guys like Mara. It says that one should be right out at the close. Keep an eye out on Mara, Marathon Digital. And yeah, there's not too many other earnings that are coming out today. Let me go and look at my Catalyst watched. What's up, Paul? Good afternoon, sir. Hope you're doing well. Joining the space in a couple minutes. Most of the stuff has already happened today. Yeah, all the Catalyst Watch stuff has happened. So this might not be the busiest of afternoon spaces out there. I just wanted to get live and say why not and hang out with everyone. Let's run through some of the biggest news stories we had today on the day that was catching my eye. Paul, why don't you let me know if there was anything that was catching your eye? This one, we'll see. Fed's daily saying there's considerable uncertainty about inflation in the next 3 months. We kind of knew that. This video that I posted of Warren Buffett, this is what the analytics look like on the back end, Paul. It's 100% males and 0% female. I thought there would be at least like 0.1% or something like that. I don't know. I don't see numbers specifically, but would be wild if not a single female saw that video. Jokes. Apple is going to be announcing some new AI chips this year, but the interesting part of this one is that they'll be using their own in-house chips. Interesting. T-Mobile one. This video is hilarious.
1, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom!
Man short in front of a class and just rips up. Pretty jokes. Jim Cramer making a comment. Fed's daily is live right now. It's too early to declare labor market fragile and faltering. Unity earnings after the close is the one that I'm probably the most focused on. Not the busiest afternoon of earnings. This is a fun little video. I'm sure we'll watch at some point today. We had Amazon. Ooh, you just left the Apple store. You buy any products? You help out my stock, Paul? But Amazon hit new all-time highs today. Love to see it. You work at a door company. They were packed. Nice. Robinhood went red to green. Green to red. Sorry. Where is it at now? I fixed this a little bit. I saw on the spaces it didn't look like you could see it. How can you see the symbols like significantly better now? For what everything is, I'm fairly certain you can. Yeah. Look at this red to green. This is where the earnings started. Boop, and then boop. Pain. Let's get it to the dual guy right now, maybe. Nice. Welcome everyone coming in the chat. If you're new here, make sure you're subscribed. Say hello. I would love to hear what stocks you guys were watching today. But continuing on, some more of the big news from the morning. The Fear and Greed Index. Let's look where it's at now. If it's up into neutral, I gotta tweet it. I know some people don't like it. I enjoy watching. Heat map for the day. Let's look up the updated heat map. Oh, Paul, also, I tested out super low latency, like ultra low latency on this one. This is the first time. And Paul, now there's actually 2 other people in here with you, so I shouldn't just address you. Paul, if you're that one person who liked this stream, I appreciate you. If you're not, then you should like the stream. But yeah, it's super ultra low latency. It's like I should see this like any second now. It is pretty quick. Wow. So put a message in the chat, Paul. I'll read it out and tell me how quickly you hear it. Amazon, Home Depot, some strength down here. I saw some stories around Constellation Energy, Nucor, Steel, Newmont, etc. Boom. He put the fire thingy. HCA, Amgen, IDEX. Nice. All right, what else? Roblox with a pretty big red move off of their earnings. Let's check it over here. RBLX. What have they done throughout the day? 1 hour. Yeah. That was like 2 seconds. There you go. It should be it. That's what it should be. That's what the ultra low latency was saying. At least I don't know. Paul, it says we have 3 concurrent viewers but 1 total view, so that's interesting. They have a deal with Netflix. Who? Roblox? Roblox Netflix deal. Let's look. Okay, I see what you're saying. Netflix is teaming up with Roblox. Oh, get this out of my way. Oh, continue about sport. Netflix is teaming up with Roblox to launch its own digital theme park on the online gaming platform dubbed Next World. Fuck it. We'll tweet it. What's up, brother? Sorry for cursing. Netflix teaming up with Roblox. Its own digital theme. Here will feature characters and content from Netflix IP. What was this called? Variety. Fuck it, we'll tweet it. Metaverse. They just don't want to call it the metaverse, but it's kind of close enough. Like, this is what it was kind of meant to be. Roblox. Netflix is team up with Roblox to launch its own digital theme park on the gaming platform dubbed. Let's get this up. Photo credit Netflix. Alright, I'm sure all like 2 people who enjoy the metaverse will like that one. Yeah, what else do we have today? FedEx, another Boeing plane. I don't know why this video sucks so much. But another Boeing plane crashed today in Turkey. Or cargo plane was forced to make an emergency landing without its front landing gear. Some could say that's a crash landing. Some could say it's a controlled descent. I don't know. What's up, Subconscious Minds? Welcome back. Appreciate you hanging out with me today. We're going to join the spaces in like 5-10 minutes. And also, I'm testing out ultra low latency right now, so like we could have a full-on conversation from what you're saying. Like the second you put your comments, the second we see it, a BA needs a full fleet stop. I wonder how much of everything is Boeing and how much of it is the maintenance. Obviously, there's more happening with their planes than the Airbus ones, but still. Roblox, here's some data on the Roblox earnings from this morning. Alright, I'm going to have to say what's up to the spaces in a second, too. Shout out to the people in here. I didn't tweet this out or anything. This is just on kind of like secondary places, so... most of you guys from the Discord, I would guess. Subconscious Minds, you in the Discord? Is that where you saw this? But who is at fault, Boeing or the owner? I think the airlines are more at fault than people think, but it's probably Boeing a lot because the issue doesn't happen with Airbus as much, which is fair. Initial jobless claims came in above expectations. I think this was the highest initial jobless claims from... Oh, interesting, Subconscious. Nice. Have you been in that updates group for a long time, Subconscious Minds, or did you just join it when I did that story share the other day? I need to get more Instagram people in here, honestly, because the content on here, like you've never been in a spaces or anything, and these spaces are fantastic. Some of the best thing that I do, honestly. So I'm excited for you to hear them. I'm just waiting for us to go live. Wolfie, oh, there he is. He's playing some music at the start. What's up? What's up? Oh no, there's no spaces chat.
It's there for me.
Oh, it's not there for me.
That's what someone said earlier. That happened on my other space. It was there for me, but it wasn't there for someone else.
Painful.
But I can see it right now.
I appreciate you, Subconscious. I love me some Instagram. Yeah, will be interesting. But how has your day been so far today?
It's good. It's good. It's good. Right now, I believe that Celsius is up like
Ooh,
it was up 10%, but it's still up like 8%. So pretty solid. Shout out to the haters.
What happened? Was there a news story or something? I know that we had the earnings and it had a nice recovery back and just a nice big pump day.
Thought that they had a small piece of news, but it could just be coming off of those earnings. I think people seeing the bigger picture here with what's going on. I did
tell them about the bigger picture. What's the bigger picture? No, I'm messing with you.
The bigger picture was that EPS. Also, yeah. I mean, I think they got a lot going for them with just some of the pieces that are happening here, but I don't see anything posted on Jonah's timeline, so they probably didn't have any like major.
He's your Celsius guy.
I mean, he's the Celsius.
He's the Celsius guy. Fair enough. Well, when it's up 10% on a day, it's good for him.
Yeah. So, powering up pretty nicely here. It's back over 83. So that's pretty solid considering it was all the way down to 66 just a couple of days ago. So that's over 20% move. Did
you see the Robinhood reversal?
No. Is it down?
It is down.
Oh, wow.
It had a good morning, some good morning earnings numbers, nice pump, and then it gave it all back pretty much when the market just opened. Yeah, and that 9 a.m. candle.
Interesting. Maybe people, well, you know, this is kind of interesting because yesterday when they had that first initial spike, right when earnings came out, they gave it all back right away. And I don't know if you remember me saying, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they faded. It seems like there's clear selling, or at least some interest in selling just based on that first reaction to the pump. And so now seeing it fade today kind of lines up with that. PayPal, Green Day, Baba putting in another Green Day as well. Wolfspeed putting in a Green Day. So some decent ones.
Wow, Paul, look at this. This tweet's actually not doing bad.
You know, if you're still
I'm a little surprised people like it.
Names like Frontline, they're doing pretty solid. I actually believe that they hit
GCT had earnings or something, I think.
They did have earnings. They were down like 10%, and they've clawed all the way back. They were down 10.2%, and then they came all the way back to green, I believe, by 11 a.m., and then they were down a little bit more. But they're down like 2.8% right now. But yes, they did have earnings.
I also heard your favorite video game platform, Roblox, had some earnings and weren't so great. You have any comments?
I don't know if I've ever actually played Roblox.
We know you play Roblox every day after the spaces. Don't try and put on that face.
Have you actually played Roblox?
No, I haven't.
I don't even know. I actually don't even know what the game looks like. I assume it's
like a Minecraft type thing. Close enough to that.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. Real quick, for GCT, I believe they had a double beat. Is that what happened?
I could look, but that's the name that you talk about a bunch.
Is it not in yet on Earnings Hub?
Oh, I was muted there. I was gonna say, I mean, I could look, but you're the GCT guy. You should know.
I looked at it briefly this morning, but then I was trying to go to Earnings Hub here.
GigaCloud Technology beats on EPS and beats on revenue.
Yeah, they had earnings of 84 cents versus 49 cents last year. I mean, that is beautiful when you're seeing stuff like that. Yeah, just some nice numbers. Earnings double beat, like I said, 96.5% year-over-year revenue growth, 69% nice year-over-year EPS growth revenue. I mean, this is just looking awesome right here. Hit across the board in all metrics. No idea why the stock down right now with this double beat. I think we just have to be honest, a pretty weak earnings season, which we can talk about now that we're towards the end of it. But yeah, pretty good numbers there on GCT if you're looking at them. Double beat and just a huge growth from the past year. And then the one other name which I was mentioning there, as we were talking. I feel like I started talking about it, but now I'm blanking on what it was. Oh, FRO was new 52-week highs as well. Maybe I got to start talking about that name. I feel like I haven't talked about FRO at all, but it just keeps going up this year. It's up now 26% this year. This is one that I was talking about a little bit earlier in the year. And then VIST also hitting, I believe these are new all-time highs. Yes, new all-time highs on VIST as well, coming in. We're now up to $46. Well, actually, all-time highs were on May 7th. Sorry, it popped a little bit there, but it's relatively close to them. Hit them this week. So pretty nice stuff, to be honest, on a lot of my favorite names right now, Evan.
Very nice. I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
You want to make it happen to like Apple and Tesla and Facebook and Nvidia and my names?
Well, first, what we're going to need there is some volume. So we're on pace for, I believe, the a new lowest volume day of the year for SPY.
Have you guys noticed how I always spell YouTube wrong? I spell YouTube. Like, I don't know why I do that.
Super, super, super low volume. QQQ up 0.27%, I believe. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say low volume there as well. I haven't really looked at it today, but usually when SPY is, so is that. But majority of large cap tech up today besides Tesla and Nvidia, which are both down around 1.3, 1.4%. But 1.4% up on Amazon. Is this all-time highs?
Amazon did hit new all-time highs today, yes, sir.
Nice. Yes,
Nice.
Amazon, very nice push. Just coming off of those earnings, we've now put in 6 out of 7 days green candles. So really, really good to see there. I think the market's recognizing the energy. Speaking of energy, I mentioned this name yesterday when Josh was on. NRG up 7.5% today. Pretty close to, it's probably not all-time highs because when you go back
It's close.
forever.
It's close.
Yeah, but you have to scroll back on these charts, years to get back to typically NRG, it's near all-time highs. I guess you don't have to go back. You're just saying intraday from.
No, I'm saying all-time highs. It broke out, I guess, at some point in the last year or so, and this year it's been making a bunch of new all-time highs.
Yeah, so NRG is crazy.
What's up, Ollie? Good
7.5%.
afternoon, Tanner. Hello.
Is having a really good stretch here.
Yay.
Someone picked Zim on our space on Monday as their stock pick for the week, the shippers, and it's just going nuts here. Zim just since April 19th, so just a few weeks, has gone from less than $10 to over $16.
What's up, Bulldog?
So
welcome.
60% gain.
Appreciate
on the
you being
shipper
here.
Right there. AMRK.
Get a nice
I know
jump.
that there are people who are into precious metals.
Listen.
Talk about AMRK. This thing had a pretty nasty. What'd you say?
No, keep going, then I'll come in after. I'm sorry.
You're good. It had a pretty nasty reaction originally on earnings, and it's almost recovered all the way back up from 34 back up to almost 41. So pretty good looking there. VRT, new all-time highs on VRT.
Don't keep going to another name.
Oh, sorry. What do you want on AMRK?
No, I wanted to talk about Boeing for a second here, and you can continue after.
Okay.
All I'm saying
Boeing.
is, listen, Boeing, they had another news story this morning about a plane that had to make an emergency landing. It was a cargo plane, so you might not hear about it too much. But bad news, stocks up, good percentage points today. What's the move today? I just see a bunch of green candles.
Boeing's up 0.72.
The point, okay, that's not that much. Point being, moving higher off of bad news. Bottom in Boeing? Question mark? Stock talk. I know. Kevin, stock talk. Shy. Any point? Are we at the point?
I don't know. I'm not.
We're at the point now where bad news is making the stock go up, or in the short term.
Yeah, in the short term, but I don't know if There's a lot of stocks out there.
Yeah, it's like pretty radioactive for me. Like I can't imagine. I mean, it's just like you never know when another
I'm partially
plane
just messing
something
around.
else is gonna happen with a plane, and like anytime that's gonna happen.
Welcome to the chat, everyone. Say hi.
The whistleblower wasn't a big deal. Is that expected at this point? But that's just like, how do you properly assess risk when we don't really even know how big this thing is with these planes?
Yeah, and I'd like to see their next quarterly results and see what their Hitman budget was before I make that decision.
Do you know what would be considered expensive and not? I'm just curious on how much I actually know stock talk.
I don't have much experience in procurement in that space, but
Correct answer.
we'll
All right, that was the good answer. Wolf, you can go on and continue with the intro, but I was just looking at the Boeing chart.
Okay, good, because I do have a few other things that are on my radar that I wanted to throw out here. So
Wolf.
I mentioned VRT. Yeah.
What else is on your radar?
On my radar, VRT, Vertiv Holdings. The craziest chart
Sometimes
that
I
you're
have
gonna
to
see all year.
be a
If
little
anyone hasn't
troll.
looked at it, take a look at VRT. At this point
That's a
now,
good DRT.
it is up 558% in the past year. It's up 107% year to date alone. Absolutely insane chart. Just keeps on running to the upside. And I do think that this is going to break 100 and get a nice little bump from there. Also wanted to mention gold miners. I mean, look how good this is looking. I'm looking at GDXU. This is the triple leverage gold miners. Looking nice. I mean, really, really big breakout.
I opened just a standard GDX position yesterday, and it's already up 20% today.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, that chart looks awesome, I gotta say. Right here with gold starting to move to the upside and just all the interest that's in it and continuing to push the movement, and you're getting decent amount of volume actually into gold miners in comparison to some of the rest of the market as well. Carvana still holding up pretty nice. I think a lot of people thought it might retrace that 20-30% move that it did on earnings, but it did not. It instead is holding up. It's at 119. It's up 4% today. Looking pretty good.
How we all doing?
ANF. A lot of people are looking for ANF to just
Abercrombie
roll
and
over
Fitch.
to Abercrombie and Fitch. Another insane chart from May 2023 to May 2024. This is just, looking pretty crazy right here. By the way, Stock, I think he quote tweeted it. And so,
Even better.
There you go. ANF just still holding up. People are looking for this to roll over. It came down to 109, back up to 130, almost back at all-time highs on ANF. I'm almost done. I just have like two others that I wanted to touch on right here. MSTR. This is a weird chart to figure out with Bitcoin and everything where it is, but it is up 3% today. It's still holding 1,250. I think that's a big mark for it. It hasn't cracked below 1,000 in a while now. It's been really since the beginning of March. And then last one, just because I think it's funny how it's looking, and I do think that Senor Trump is starting to get more popularity. He came out with being pro-crypto yesterday. I don't know if you saw, which is very funny if you look back at his tweet from 2021 or something like that, or 2019, whenever it was, when he put out the tweet that he was very anti-crypto and it's all fake money. But then he came out yesterday and said, vote for me if you like crypto. And DJT is up almost 10% today. The degens are degenning. So just a couple interesting things that I was looking at. Evan, any thoughts before I roll around here a little?
What did crypto do today? I didn't even really look at it. I mean,
pretty flat. I mean, slightly up. I think Bitcoin can't get away from 62K. Talked about that this morning. It's back at 62.2. So it went down to, 60,700 this morning. It went all the way up to 62.6. Now it's back at 62. We've been sitting at 62 for, a while.
yeah, but my point being is, I think that is a good thing when you have someone who has at least a chance to become president, 50%, 50, whatever it is right now, saying good stuff about it. But I take it maybe with a little bit of grain of salt of kind of saying it now versus doing it after, and also kind of given prior comments as you were saying. But I would think that this would be a good thing for crypto, and it would move higher off of this in the short term at least. So I'm a little surprised to see it not a rip up day after that.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying. So a little bit. Oh, last thing, the defense. Raytheon, the government is buying
Broke it.
it.
I don't feel
I'm
comfortable
buying
with that
it.
type of language.
So, it's looking really nice here. Raytheon now up
Mettler,
3.6% the past
Unity,
week.
Dropbox,
I
Mara.
assume Lockheed Martin is moving with it as well. It's up another 1.5%. So yeah, defense looking pretty solid. Obviously the world's getting pretty crazy. Israel went into Rafah yesterday. There's a whole bunch of things happening there. So I think those defense contractors are going to continue to move up. These RTX calls that I'm holding are up like 150% today. Sorry, 141. All right.
Liar.
They are up 141% today.
But you originally said 156, so it's still okay. We can keep moving.
I said 150. But they aren't up 150. Okay. Well, let's go around now that the semantics are out of the way. Kevin, what's going on? You want to kick us into it with what you're looking at today?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing on the radar for me was actually the 30-year Treasury auction. It was phenomenal.
Guys, I'm going to pause this for a second. Everyone needs to look in the chat the message that BroKit just said and that he said was oops autocorrect. Just look. I'm not going to read it out loud, but just look at it in the chat. I had to get my mic nice and close for that.
Really soaking it up. I thought that was a good thing to see. We did see yields kind of move to the downside with that. I still believe that the yield channel, and I'll try to post a chart here in a second, but this channel that I've been following literally since December of last year, I think it's still intact. It hasn't really shown that it's going to break yet. The lower end right now, that channel is around 4.4%. I still think that's intact, but to be able to see some of that strength going into the auction, I think is going to be helpful for equities in order for them to try to break through some of these resistance levels that we will see. I think the last one that I'm kind of looking at for the S&P 500 as far as resistance, I'm going to get that number, not the E-mini S&P 500, is 52. Let's just call it 52.20. So, I mean, we're only 9 points away from it. So let's see if we break through that. If we break through that on strong volume, I think that would be a very key area. You brought up light volume, and we have had light volume markets, but price action obviously is going to be key. So it's a very strong bounce. Actually, did surprise me a little bit that we were able to bounce this much. And when you're looking at the internals of the market, we actually have a really good market when it comes to the internals today.
What's up,
even
brother?
though maybe a little bit minimal when you're looking at the market cap weighted S&P 500. We have over 80% of stocks in the S&P 500 actually in the green here today, and it continues to improve. So much so that if you look at the S&P equal weight, it's up about 0.7% on the session. So doing a phenomenal job there. You brought up defense a couple of weeks ago. RTX, Lockheed Martin, definitely they're going to be players in there. I think there's going to be some others too that we can look at the defense names and ETFs that Jag usually talks about. I would also kind of go back and say that utilities continues to outperform, and I think their performance has just been phenomenal. And I don't think it's a negative thing. A lot of people are attributing utilities outperformance to be something that's negative. We just have to understand utilities have been in a bear market. They never got into a bull market at all. They actually did fail and broke down a lot earlier and just has not been able to recover. It's finally recovering right now. So I think that's one key area there. Their input costs have gone down considerably. They continue to increase prices on their customers. Margins are expanding. Demand from the AI front is supposed to be moving to the upside here. So they have a lot of tailwinds. That being said, if you're looking at the XLU, I think $71 is going to be the key area of resistance that we do pull back on. So I think we're kind of at the end of this cycle when it comes to utilities for now, unless we do see a massive break to the downside when it comes to treasuries. And then the only other sector that I've kind of been focusing on here for today has been
How are you guys all
sector,
doing today?
And we're starting to catch a little bit of a bid when it comes to crude.
Hope you guys are having a good day so far.
A nice candle that was forming yesterday, kind of like this hammer candle, if you will. We tried to push down. Buyers came back in. We're trying to recover from this upward channel line. Let's see if that's going to take place. We're at 79.40. Close to that $80 level on the low end that I've been kind of harping about over the last couple of weeks. Let's see if we do actually see a nice little bounce back to the upside. I think the geopolitical risks are starting to be priced in even more after Biden's comments regarding withholding arms, certain munitions, if you will, from Israel. And so I think that's another key thing to really focus on. And outside of that, I'll kick it because I know there's a lot of people on this panel, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin. George, what are you looking at today?
So first, I just wanna echo the utilities thing. I actually one quick thing. I just track Excel, all the Excels pretty much in a sheet that I look at, and it actually is on 3 months, 1 month, 1 week. Utilities are the top sector. So I rarely see that kind of consistency. And then B, just to give a specific name, I've been on CEG for a while, and CEG is a very interesting one because utilities don't typically spike in the Prospero metrics, which is my company and something that I think a lot about in terms of how to benchmark to the sectors versus the actual performance. And so when I don't see that kind of behavior in utilities, CEG's been strong, and not only has it been strong, it had a revenue miss today that originally the market didn't react well to. It gave good guidance, but even just seeing that resilience for a stock that's run as much as it has, I would say I would have to echo that, and I'm just feeling very good about utilities and that company in particular.
Some large stocks that hit 52 highs
a lot this week is
today.
In terms of Uber and Shopify's earnings reports. I think I take that very seriously because I've been looking for kind of the consumer spending to start to catch up, the consumer spending problems.
Right.
And those are really different businesses. And I kind of saw it, and even if you look at like Amazon, which did have great earnings, but if you strip out cloud, they were only up 11% year over year. So you might see, we might be seeing some softening there in terms of maybe we are really starting to get some hurt in the economy. Of course, I think that could be very good news for things like tech stocks, because I do think that means cuts are going to, accelerate, especially if we start to see, serious problems with consumer spending. And I think a lot of the guidance was concerning. One other thing that I want to mention is just like a weird anomaly that like I rarely go long real estate stocks just because they tend not to have good options dynamics. And so, similar to CEG, I actually saw something spike up JLL today, and I bought it because I was like, wow, I've never seen something with an option sentiment, a real estate stock with an option sentiment that high. But, other than that, I think, the big theme that I keep seeing is that the market keeps being volatile because I don't think anyone can really decide if AI is overpriced or not. And I just think, it's very good to be prepared for, NVIDIA's impending earnings report. I know it's not until the week after this, but, I'm going to be looking for a lot of signs. How I tend to play NVIDIA earnings is I'll actually
Now let's build the NVIDIA earnings hype train already.
SMCI, and sometimes ASML, sometimes Broadcom, just to get kind of the drift effects. But those are the big things I have my eye on.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm down to start the NVIDIA earnings hype train if anyone else wants to. Less than 2 weeks away, 13 days.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, and like, I'm blown away every time I just recount this, because 2 quarters ago was the best quarter I've ever seen. Last quarter was even better. But the crazy thing about it was they were actually down that day because people are so concerned about China. And that's just like, and the guidance they gave around that, or at least talking about it. And I think that's like the crazy thing about this market right now is that, we kind of having this,
Bro, Kit, there's no way that was an
autocorrect.
autocorrect.
But he likes it long term.
What are you messaging people
like
daddy
so much,
for
like,
then?
for lack
Just
of a better
saying.
term, schizophrenia. So like, I do expect them to have great earnings, but will the market react to it well? Who knows? This is such a crazy market.
All right, 13 days, 1 hour, and like 4 minutes.
Shy, you on the hype train?
You know it.
Shy, would you like to be a board member on the hype train committee?
Of course. I think,
nice.
Yeah, of course I'll be that. But yeah, I mean, for the AI train, I mean, again, long-term investor, I do think we might be in the middle of the S-curve for AI. But again, I've counted, I think last earnings report, I was like, no way NVIDIA can top the prior report. And they did. So until I see them kind of seeing some kind of character changes than the prior quarters, then I think it's going to be business as usual. But again, I'm primarily tackling the AI space within enterprise software because I think that's got the most potential for maximized returns, and I haven't seen that this earnings season. So this could be the time where we get this lull of not much on the AI front. It's not going to be as drastic, or the velocity of AI adoption won't be as drastic as it's been the past year, and I think people are just expecting it to continue at the rate it's been going at the past year, and that's not the case. There's going to be some digestion period, and I do think that could be it this year. Who knows? But since I have the ball, I guess I can go over what is on my radar as well today. Shift4, I called it out yesterday. They had a really ugly report. I think it's more on the air of seasonality weakness.
I love me some semiconductors. I'm a big ETF guy, bro, Kit. So, I mean, SMH, get all of them. NVIDIA is obviously the big one. My cost basis in NVIDIA is very low price. So, I mean, that's the one I've owned for a while, but I don't know if NVIDIA is the area I'd attack right now. I'm just a big fan of semiconductors in general. I believe the world's getting more technical over time, and semiconductors underpin all of that. So it's hard to say where. I mean, my NVIDIA cost base is 75. So I loved it there. If you can get a time machine, buy it back there. That's my number one pick.
Interesting trade. But regarding Robinhood, 'cause I'm getting asked this a ton today from my comments I made yesterday.
Shy, what happened to my Robinhood shares? I was up so much, and now I'm down.
I mean, again, it's Coinbase 2.0 what happened, but it's more severe. I think it's a combination of massive profit taking from the run-up it's had in 2024, which is totally natural, and especially in a cyclical business like Robinhood, where a lot of the figures that they're reporting aren't as sticky as, I don't know, like a software name where it's recurring is a perfect example, where I guess a lot of people maybe are assuming that this spike that you saw operationally from Robinhood could be the combination of the Bitcoin ETFs and the retirement match promotions that have caused a massive inflow of cash. Who knows what that might be, but I know that, again, that combination, a lot of people are arguing that it's not sustainable. That might be the case, but you can't argue with the massive operational beat that they've had this quarter. Like, it was mind-boggling, where you saw operating margins of 26%. Their revenue was close to 30%.
Ooh.
Net deposits, like I just mentioned, the inflow due to the retirement match, that was a 44%, which is absolutely nutty. And they got profitable. And their ARPU was like up close to 30% quarter after quarter. Like, it was a phenomenal quarter. I think people are just fearful that this is just a one-off. So this could be digesting a bit for the next couple weeks, couple months, until they report again. Who knows? But I think if you're a Robinhood shareholder, you should be ecstatic with the print that they just had, if your thesis is that they could be the brokerage of the future. And I think you should hold on to it if that's your thesis, because I think this specific print expanded that mode of theirs, and we'll see if it continues next quarter. But regarding what else I'm watching today, it's just a whole lot of, Trade Desk, 3%, I think that's a big win, especially due to their nosebleed valuations.
SMH dividends, let's look.
Reported this earnings cycle. Doesn't matter what kind of report they had, if they don't guide up a significant amount, you get sold off 10 to 15%.
Yeah,
so
SMH has a dividend.
That's
Not a big one.
In my opinion. Celsius,
But there's a
I don't know
dividend.
what happened in Celsius. I took advantage of that squeeze.
You can use some other semiconductor ETFs, but I like playing sectors through ETFs that I'm bullish on that I might not know.
One was a Celsius, new investor in Celsius. I 5x my initial.
Warren Buffett and Berkshire.
And now I only have 100 shares left. I'm going to let this one ride out. It's just, right now, I just see better opportunities out there where I still have a handful of higher conviction positions that I currently own that haven't reported yet. And I want to have enough dry powder on the sidelines to capture these gap downs that a lot of these incredible growth companies are reporting incredible earnings. It's just they're getting punished due to valuation. In my opinion, I want to capture that, especially in the data and AI space. And Celsius at $20 billion, their international story is just getting started. But if this is the first sign of a narrative that top line growth won't be 50+% anymore, it's going to be all about the earnings growth, I think you have to be a whole different kind of investor to be invested in Celsius at this point of
Those are the earnings we're watching.
journey.
Maybe back in half a second.
And right now, I did 3 year.
If you're in here and you hear me say this, give the live stream a like.
2026. I see better alpha elsewhere in my positions. So that's the reason.
Ollie, I own some
I'm not saying it's bad
SNO as well.
investment. I think there's tons of runway potentially, but at $20 billion as a consumer product like a drink, energy drink, I think I made my alpha
just
by
watching
getting
people
in
leave the
at
stream, that's fine.
under $3 billion, and now they're at under $5 billion. Now they're at $20 billion. So I'm okay letting the last 100 shares ride and just add to like the Snowflakes, Global Ease, and I added to Jumia. Jumia.
We did say Snowflake.
I don't know why it was down 10% today. It's my last thing I'll talk about. Pass it back to you because I took too much time. But again, Jumia, ticker JMIA, it's under the radar still, in my opinion, because it's around $6. They just communicated that they don't need to raise any more
tweet,
funds.
right?
Their business is cash flow break even. They don't have to raise it again. Let that sink in, because the whole issue with Jumia was solvency risk. And it said 3 to 4 quarters ago, it looks like it's diminishing. Like their cash burn is reducing significantly, and their presence, the market share is increasing still in e-commerce in Africa, and like they're still increasing revenues while having their SG&A costs go down 80%. That's a test of the remote, and it's definitely happening right now. Or this last print that happened this week or last week, that was their inflection point. They just communicated, we don't need to raise funds. We're going to be a cash break-even business. That alone, I was like, all right, this is going to be a $10 stock instantly. I don't know why it's at $6 still. It went up 25 or 30% after their earnings, but I still think this is the beginning of a massive runway for Jumio of finally getting coverage on the institutional side. And I do think the solvency risk being close to zero, probably zero if you trust the CEO who just called it out, cash flow break even is going to be, I think this is going to be a massive winner. So that's the reason I trimmed Celsius. I see better opportunities out there, but I'll pass it back to you because I know you'll circle back with
Shai, I actually got a question from Ollie. Asked me about if you your current thoughts on Snowflake. I know you mentioned it a second there, but what's the any updated thoughts? Anything changing there? Their earnings should be soon-ish, right? It has to be within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Snowflake, I doubled it was my second biggest position entering their last earnings. I doubled it. And it's a 12% position for me, so I'm fully capped out until they report again. I think it's going to be a freaking home run of an earnings. By home run, I mean it's projected to be low 22-23% revenue growth for fiscal year 2024. I think they're going to do 30%. Like, the people I talk to who work at Snowflake and who are in that industry, like, they're just telling me what happened last earnings call was just a classic kitchen sink type of guidance for a new CEO who I've been told by my peers who are in that industry, like, don't blow smoke up his ass or talk about stuff that you don't really understand because you'll be called out. Like, he is a full-on perfectionist and go-to products. He takes products to market super fast, and if you can't handle his pressure or handle his deliverable timeline, you get ousted. Like, he is a no bullshit type of CEO. And I do think that Snowflake was always that company where, like, they had incredible moats, but they were just dragging along with their AI products, go-to-market products for AI. I think that's a completely different story now. And they have a whole conference in June, in a month, where NVIDIA, Jensen's going to be a keynote speaker. And I do think they're going to have a lot of interesting AI products being launched at that date. And I think I've been saying under 180, it's a no-brainer investment in my opinion. I think this is going to be a mega cap stock in like 5 years. It doesn't make sense why people call it not an AI player and just a data player, because they're idiots in my opinion, where if you're storing a third of the Fortune 500 data onto your warehouse, do you not think that you can utilize that data in any kind of AI function or LLMs? Like, it's a natural synergy. It doesn't make sense why you think they're just storing data and not going to utilize AI products going forward for the clients in their ecosystem to leverage that data for their own insights. It doesn't make sense. So again, sorry, long-winded answer. If you haven't started an investment, I think I would DCA right now. If you want to do $10,000, I would do like $3,000 to $4,000 and wait until our earnings print. Give up that 10% gap up you might get from that print and continue adding then.
Was it 189 billion?
Runway for Snowflake is just beginning. It's incredibly long. There's no rush to get in, and I do think they're going to have a home run earnings.
56th. Appreciate you, Shai.
Awesome, guys. Just want to make sure we get everyone else a chance to share some thoughts, and I do appreciate the back and forth and follow-up questions. So if someone on the panel says something you resonate with, feel free to jump in. Doesn't have to just be kind of turn by turn. With that being said, Logical, we did mention crypto a couple times.
Got
Trump
you,
coming out in favor of it, so I wanted to get your thoughts here.
Well, all right, I'll start with that, and then I'll go into what I was talking about, and I want to touch on some things that Shai was saying. But, yeah, I mean, look, crypto already, I think, with the Bitcoin ETFs has already started to become, it's starting to become, like, much more legitimized in, like, since it's in these traditional U.S. institutions. So I think it makes sense that why are you going to alienate yourself at this point? And then if you think about, like, the SEC and Gary Gensler, the chair, you know, I think in a lot of ways he has overstepped as
A little
has
bit below my
the
Snowflake cost basis,
rest
not
of
much
the
though.
SEC, and they're just slapping people with Wells notices. And I think if it was mid last year, a year ago today, I would probably say, oh yeah, crypto's screwed, because they were so
I'll be back in a
strong
second.
on the offensive, and then crypto survived, and I think that crypto being able to survive, and now Coinbase becoming a custodian of these Bitcoin ETFs, it just changes the dynamic of what we're seeing. So yeah, I mean, more Trump being on board. I mean, I don't think about it too much, but I do think that it would be silly at this point to fade crypto, because clearly it's becoming more and more ingrained in our society. People are going to be able to start allocating portions of their retirement funds, traditional brokerage funds. You could set it up as a passive flow. I mean, there's going to be a passive bid for Bitcoin moving forward, just like there is for the S&P, which is why the S&P is just going to keep going up, for the rest of our lives, essentially. So yeah, that's what I would say on the crypto front. I like a lot of things that Shai was saying. Celsius being pretty strong here. I wish I had sold more puts, but I'm going to take the wins where I can, and I'm sitting in some sold puts, so that's good. Shai really does make me think a little bit harder on Snowflake. I 100% agree with him on the AI use cases, and clearly the new CEO has an AI-esque kind of persona there. So that's very good to see, obviously. And yeah, if anyone's calling Snowflake not an AI play, they don't know what they're talking about, for sure. I think Shai has kind of sold me on. I've been thinking about, I got some new funds coming in. What do I want to buy? And I think Snowflake might just be at the top of that list right now. So I agree. And at $50 billion market cap, clearly it can become a $200 billion company. Yeah, for sure. So, and again, you have to think about it like this, right? And I've probably said this on a prior space. I use Snowflake every single day. If you are a company and you have your setup in the Snowflake warehouse, first off, the switching costs are very high. You're not just going to switch to another warehouse.
Let's get this on Instagram.
Two, you're going to grow your data set every day that passes by, right? Like, so today is what, May 9th, right? And yesterday was May 8th, right? And so every day we have new data based on the consumers on our.
If you're coming from the Instagram story, you're seeing the
or whatever it is. So every single
pre-story post.
More data. That means that you're using Snowflake. You're using more computational power on
Snowflake.
So every single day, their business continues to grow with their customers. So there's just like this natural growth function going on, and I agree with Shai in the sense that they might end up just beating and raising because that guide was so low. And we've seen the cloud providers actually return to a re-acceleration of growth. Similarly, in AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, and Snowflake is essentially a one-to-one correlation there. So I agree. Snowflake should be pretty solid from here on out. Trying to think, what else did I miss? I think, that covers it for those, but
Listen,
yeah, I mean, what am I watching?
I'm gonna buy another share of Snowflake.
A few things, honestly. Magnite had a good quarter, just like the other ad techs. I see the stock is fading a bit today, just like PubMatic did after it hit a new 52-week high a couple days ago. It's still up plus 5% for the day, so I'll take the win. Ultimately, I think that these stocks, especially going into the election season, ad tech is going to be very strong. So I would look for further tailwinds. And again, the ad market bottomed in Q3 when we saw CPMs, which is essentially the ad word for take rates, bottomed back then. So, these cycles last for years typically. And, unless you're going to call that, this cycle is only going to last 6 to 8
Welcome,
months,
anyone just joining in.
We're probably nowhere near the peak of this cycle, this ad cycle. So, looking forward to more strength in the ad names. Agree that, Trade Desk being up is also pretty bullish. I'm looking at PRCT, which is Procept Biorobotics. I sold the covered call like a moron, and I could not believe this pump that I've seen. The chart is absolutely strong, and I'm really just thinking about buying that call back and holding onto my shares because I think this could be like a future Shockwave Medical sort of player sitting at $3 billion market cap, growth rates at 80% or so. So I feel pretty silly selling that covered call to hedge my position. What else? Tomorrow I have a NanoCap reporting, CREX. I've been telling our Discord community that I was adding shares because the stock was in a 30% drawdown, and it's actually recovered 30% in the last week leading up to the earnings tomorrow. It is a very cheap stock if you look at the financials. Management is very strong for a nano cap, micro cap, so that's very important. So I'm looking forward to
For anyone just getting in the chat,
yeah,
let me know what stocks you guys are watching today. How your day has been.
Yeah, I mean, I think that covers it. Those are the main things
So
I've
the
been
earnings
watching.
you have coming up after the close.
TMDX still strong, et cetera, et cetera.
This
Anyways, I'll pass it back.
Fine enough.
Perfect. Thank you. Logical. Always good to hear from you, and I value the thoughts there on the crypto side of things as well. And also at Snowflake, of course. Brett, what's on your mind here?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of great commentary on some of these individual names. We definitely wanted to hear about hear everyone's take on Snow. So that was nice to kind of get some multiple input, multiple points of view on that. But yeah, Kevin actually mentioned the bond yields earlier in the discussion, or the bond auctions, and we had a couple big ones this week, and both went pretty well. And yeah, I think we're getting the reaction that bulls were looking for, which is
I make weird noises sometimes. You guys will figure that out eventually.
Kind of pressure come off with the 10-year yield moving lower, and part of that can be attributed to more strength in bonds, but it can also be attributed to some of the comments we got from the Fed last week. So I think if you kind of zoom out and think about the market in a larger sense, it can handle a lot. It can handle a lot of news, right? Like it can handle. It's like just because one thing goes wrong doesn't mean the S&P is just gonna.
Paul, we've been live for 50 minutes. We're at 8 watch hours.
A fairly large amount of headwinds at once.
So we'll be at about 10
but when,
the hour.
when
Not
they
bad.
do start to pile up and become a
good 20 for the day, probably.
That's when we get our pullbacks, and I think it kind of adds to the sort of the fear element, and definitely plays a role in sentiment. And when we come off of a big rally, I think it kind of gives investors that excuse to sort of take some profits off the table, whether it's intentional and they consciously sell, or if it's unintentional and it's just hitting some of those stops that have been put in place on the way up. I think we kind of
is this too small? Does this make the charts too small, guys?
We got such a quick correction, but we rallied so
I think it might.
so well over the months coming into that it made sense. And when you look at the rebound now, it had a lot of doubt that we would even see a rebound to the point that we have had at this point. But when you think about it, when you look at the headwinds, it sort of seen the headwinds die down too, right? Like, so we have the 10-year yields it's back under 4.5. It's, I think, near the lows of the day now, or was pretty close to the lows of the day when we started this call. And, we've had pressure come off on yields. We've had the geopolitics situation is still dicey and has unknowns, but that's calmed down. The Fed, last week came out. It was I found the Fed to be dovish. I think that's kind of the consensus, that they were more dovish than expected in terms of their view on rates, and whether they would be willing to raise rates was a non-starter. So
welcome everyone.
Investors still thinking in the back half.
See number go up.
We have catalysts kind of lining up. 1 to 2 cuts.
About 15 minutes into the close, we should get a numbers or two.
Amazing catalyst in the world, but it's
these are the companies that report earnings.
At the very least,
really not many big ones.
Not having any real intentions of raising rates, which even just removing that risk seems like a catalyst to me. And
Skills used to be popular.
The second half earnings are really supposed to pick up, and earnings this quarter have been.
Unity's the one I'm watching
which
now.
is kind of ironic.
The only one I remotely care about.
The reactions we've seen.
Mara as well,
a lot of
Dropbox,
these stocks,
Metler.
Lately have been pretty disappointing, and I think you could say that for a lot of tech.
I made you watch the open field today.
Whether that's Megacap or some of the more, the growth names that we've had reporting over the last, week and a half. But like the Magnificent Seven hasn't had great reactions. A lot of these growth names have had bad reactions, and it might have been Stock Talk. I don't know. Someone the other day mentioned, the reactions have been bad, but look how much these stocks have rallied in the last, 2 to 3 months, basically since their prior report. And, that's true. That's a consideration as well. It's definitely a factor for a number of them, but some of them have been in I'd say.
Yeah, Paul, we'll get there.
But, by and large, we've seen earnings outpace expectations this quarter, and by and large, we expect, better growth in the back half. So I think the catalysts are lining up for the bulls. In terms of whether we're out of the woods with that, I don't necessarily know. I could see it.
But one with a negative headline, SEC probing Boeing safety claims after panel blew off.
The S&P, or if the S&P is not your gauge.
Ooh, yeah, big wick down.
goes through a period where we chop around a bit. Maybe we even have a scenario like we did last year where we kind of rally into the summer, and then we pull back into Q3. That wouldn't be an unreasonable reaction, especially given the strength.
Paul, I don't know. Can we get 10
months,
likes?
Broadly speaking, but broadly speaking,
that'd be cool.
There is broad strength. I mean, we see it in the sector. It's no longer just.
I don't know, Paul. You said it, not me.
Tech names, like 7 out of the 11.
Boeing with a down move though. Let's see how
sectors
this
are up more
one
than
plays out.
7% on the year.
I'll bring it up on the spaces
It's a
when
solid
when he's
return on a
done.
sector by sector
When
basis.
Fred is
5
done.
of those names are up more than 10%. When you look, you dig in a little deeper. Obviously, utilities is a talking point today, just because it's been such a strong, massive run. But financials are doing well. Industrials are doing well. Semiconductors are doing pretty well. And it's just hard for me to be overly bearish when you have those types of sectors, firing higher and pushing up. Copper's been doing well. Regional banks have been coming back. So I don't know. I look and I see the positives. Obviously there's risks.
Yeah, Paul, I saw that today.
Definitely have some more headwinds. But yeah, I mean that's kind of how I'm viewing things at the moment. My sort of one interesting point, I'll end on this one, is NVIDIA's earnings. So kind of going back to the point where these companies aren't having the best earnings reaction.
Yeah, insane.
I don't know how NVIDIA's will be. I expect them to do really well. Dan Niles made so many great points the other day in terms of just NVIDIA being the best of breed. And obviously, I won't rehash.
No one was
everything
injured, by the way,
but,
so that's good.
If anyone's
look
on
at
this
it,
and didn't listen to it yesterday, I definitely suggest going back and listening. He made so many excellent points just on tech in general. But yeah, I'd be curious. NVIDIA's up. I think it's up close to 30% since its last report. So I don't know if it will fall in line with sort of the rest of these names, whether that you consider the rest to be growth names or mega cap. But it'll be interesting to see if they have a big beat and a strong guide, if it'll be rewarded or if the reaction will be kind of muted and maybe maybe we'll see an undersized move versus what the options market ends up pricing in.
By the way, quickly before we go on, there was a little Boeing headline. SEC probing Boeing safety claims after panel blew off of plane. I don't know if this is, someone were saying this is a new one. I don't know. I feel like this is probably still that one from January or whatever. But Boeing stock, it's funny. I talked about that at the start.
The SEC part of that is new.
Oh, that is fair.
I don't think it was the SEC probing them prior to this.
Interesting.
I think it was other organizations. Yeah.
But it's funny. Earlier I said, "Hey, is Boeing done going down?" It got bad news and it moved higher. And then here we are with bad news and it moving lower. I guess it just wasn't the right bad news.
Yeah, there are just better stocks out there. I mean, there's probably an upside trade to be made there at some point, but I mean, I'd rather trade other stocks personally.
All right, what's up, George? You got your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to dive in on Snowflake, which,
Snowflake.
I've been in AI for 13 years. And I mean, I think Snowflake has a great product, but like, I think in this market, sometimes people are maybe trying to get too cute or innovative or like whatever, because, from a value perspective, which is I was on the buy side as a value investor before I worked in AI. And it's just like, if you look at it versus some other AI names right now, it's just like not even close in terms of the risk reward, so you just rattling off, we grade profitability and growth, and scale it amongst 2,000 stocks based on, forward earnings. Microsoft, 77 profitability, 64 growth. Meta, 87 profitability, 61 growth. NVIDIA, 90 profitability,
what's up, brother?
Growth. SMCI, 90 profitability,
how we doing?
Growth. And then Snowflake's 45 profitability.
How's my sketchy impersonation?
And I just think that
my sketch,
got a
not
cool
sketchy.
Product, but there's a reason that the long-term options markets are not as bullish on Snowflake as any of the other ones I named. And if you have a larger portfolio, Snowflake should be a part of it. But betting on earnings, making it a high conviction pick when you could very easily have these companies that are growing at similar or better levels that are just far more profitable.
Listen, we just got a spike of 10 people. Someone say hi in the chat. Someone in here is in here for the first time.
It's AI.
Tell me what stocks you guys like.
And I don't really understand.
Boeing with a little bit of a comeback up.
When you see something like SoundHound going up like that, all you could do is shake your head, because it's just you can get growth, you can get rapid growth without having the same profitability risks that you get with, obviously SoundHound is at the complete other end than Snowflake. But, we're still not talking about a very good company profitability rise when we talk about Snowflake.
I do want to add, it's a disservice for Snowflake to compare it against like the big tech, like the Microsofts, the Googles, and also the cyclical players like the SMCIs and Nvidia. So it's tough to compare their metrics to a cyclical player like the hardware space. I think it's a better metrics like the Datadogs, MongoDBs.
Vadim, really?
Like that's a
interesting.
comparison for
I'll make sure I'm
Snowflake,
watching
or even
Mara.
the Data Lake, Databricks. Their valuation.
They're big. They're
I
going to
haven't
move up
marked,
Bitcoin. They probably shouldn't
way
move
higher
too much
than-
off of earnings.
Actually, I shouldn't make that statement because I don't know the actual under the.
Vadim, I would not expect too much moves from Marathon. I mean, they might move off of earnings, but for them, it's much more of the Bitcoin story, whatever that does.
I don't think that's very fair, but again, your Snowflake current assumptions. I'm part of the camp where I think they're absolutely wrong. I could be wrong, but if I'm not, and they actually do grow 28 to 30% with 30% free cash flow margins, that's a completely different story than what people are painting right now. But either way, if you value the Rule of 40 score, which is my favorite metric to find good quality growth, there's very few names out there that score a 50 or higher. And even right now in the Sandbag guide of 2024, Snowflake scores a 50 on the Rule of 40 metric. So just want to add that cup of color to that statement. I'll pass it back to you, Gav.
Yeah,
logical.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. Like, okay, again, based on what I was saying a little bit earlier, you have to think about how this company is going to grow.
60% in Mara, damn.
Let's say,
good luck, Vadim. Do I say your name right, Vadim?
New sales.
Tell me if I don't. Be honest.
10% can come from their existing customer base. Because again, every day there's new data created. So that net retention base is going to be greater than 100%. And the switching costs are extremely high. So they really only need
Boeing
to
trying to
bring
make a little comeback.
10% new sales to likely see greater than 20% growth moving forward because their current customers.
9 minutes to market close and earnings.
So
9
again,
minutes.
It's a very pure play on an expanding data world. It's as if you could buy AWS as a standalone business, more or less.
Well, you have to, like, we have a finite amount of dollars. Everybody has a finite amount of dollars. And the point I'm making is, yes, of course I'm going to compare it to these other companies. NVIDIA's growing at 236%. Why would I give one of my dollars to Snowflake when I can invest in these giants that are growing? Like, growth at a reasonable price.
Well, I'll tell you why.
What?
I'll tell you why. NVIDIA is a cyclical company, like all semiconductors. And so you're playing a game of musical chairs. But when you're dealing with something like Snowflake, it's not like people are going to stop. I mean, they might try to lower their computations to save money during a downturn, but the severity of that downturn is not going to be the amount of inventory glut we're going to see at semiconductors. I'm pretty sure at some point in this cycle, we will begin to see the growth and the beats on NVIDIA earnings start to slow down to what we've seen. And it might not happen for a couple
Nice, I'm proud of that.
Maybe even a year or so. But at some point when the beats start becoming lower, then we know that all of their customers have already pulled forward a ton of demand on the semi side. So what happens then? Then they start seeing inventory glut because they've built out their capacity and their demand starts falling. I don't think you have that kind of risk with a Snowflake. Again, semis are prone, they're very cyclical, so they're prone to booms and busts. And whenever the earnings look amazing on a semi or a cyclical, that's actually when you want to be selling. When the PE is so low, that's when you want to be selling, not buying.
Well, we're talking about, like, now, not a theoretical future. And, like, in a theoretical future, I agree. Like, I have some worries, especially long-term with NVIDIA. But I rattled off a bunch of companies. Like, it's not just NVIDIA. Like, I think what you're saying is, like, I think you're overthinking it. Like, right now, the value and the growth that are presented by the mega caps is just, like, not even close to the risk-reward that you're getting on something like Snowflake. That just doesn't have the profitability yet. When these companies are growing faster, you're talking about 20 or 30% growth in Snowflake, and like, yeah,
that's
like,
not enough to get countdown going.
Change at some point for NVIDIA, but like right now, that's not true. And right now, like that's my point. Why would anyone give their dollars to Snowflake when like Microsoft, NVIDIA, Meta, I forgot the other one that I named, SMCI. Like, it's just not a company.
Well, because there's a law of large
you're
numbers.
backwards looking on the AI. We're trying to like all the easy money has been made in those infrastructure and those hardware names. So you're backward looking, which is very easy to see at this place we're at in this AI theme. But all I know is the data will be exploding. It's validated already. I have anecdotal evidence in multiple industries I work in right now. I'm seeing that. And also, Logical seeing on his front, he uses Snowflake. So yes, it's easy to make that argument. Where we're putting our necks out because we're trying to find the next element of who's going to benefit the most from this AI space. And that's the difference between our arguments, I think. We're all saying great companies right now. I just think you're more backwards looking, and we're just trying to do frontwards looking.
I run a predictive analytics company. I'm never backwards looking. And I think those companies are going to keep doing extremely well. That's what I'm saying. And until they don't, I think you're just gambling money on something like Snowflake versus a much safer investment like those companies. That, you know, until they show weakness, which they really haven't, I just think it's a huge gamble. And I hear you. You want to find the next thing, but like I think we're in a really unique time in history in this AI boom where like these things will keep growing and they're also really safe. And that's why I'm making this argument. Forward looking.
Yeah, I mean, do you use this product? Because I use it every single day. I cannot see this like decreasing in usage moving forward.
I've acknowledged. Snowflake is a fantastic company. I love their product. I still don't think they help.
It's not just a fantastic company though. It's a fantastic product. Like it replaces the Oracle databases, the legacy databases. It takes us to a different place. When you are computing millions of records, even billions of transactions or whatever it is, I've seen Snowflake take our queries from running in 40 minutes to 4 seconds. I mean, the amount of compute.
Yeah, Ali, shout out to you.
Platform
good debate.
Is revolutionizing.
I own some Snowflake too, so I'm happy.
It makes your analysts and your data
scientists we'll see how it goes.
Become more like resourceful. You need less of them. So it automates a ton of your workforce because instead of you running 6 queries that take you a full day, you can run 6 queries in 15 minutes. You become a lot more powerful as an organization being able to leverage your data.
I said it was a fantastic product. I just don't think, just because it's a fantastic product and you clearly love it, I think there's some bias there. I think it's a great company. I think they have a fantastic product. I think that AI is.
I guess to move on from the Snowflake. Time to move on from it, though. I won't lie.
I've never seen in my 20 years analyzing stocks. I've never seen the extent of profitability and growth in tandem that these giants are having now. And I just think like in other circumstances, perhaps like Snowflake would be a great investment, but like relative to these other companies, I just don't think it is right now.
But isn't it telling that Meta and the like are starting to instate dividends? Doesn't that basically tell you that they're now becoming stalwarts and they're going to essentially be 8 to 10% growers in returns moving forward? I think that the runway that you're looking at is a little bit different.
I mean, they're also inventing things like Ollama and PyTorch at Meta, which are just huge and very innovative things. Like you're talking about data science, like I consider Ollama to be one of the most innovative things we're seeing. And the potential of that, especially with PyTorch, is just huge. So like it's not like I think you're disregarding the innovations that are going on at these giants.
I'm not bearish any of the mega caps. For the record, I'm just saying that the upside of a $50 billion company is going to be much higher in this data and AI wave than a $1 trillion company or $3 trillion.
Awesome. I do appreciate that back and forth. I think that was really good. I enjoy hearing both sides of it. We do have about a minute till the market's closed. We got an earnings or two. Nothing really big today. Unity Software, which I'm sure we'll talk about maybe, but says those numbers come out at 4:30. Wolf, Marathon Digital. Anything we gotta look at here, or it's a Bitcoin miner, so it's gonna move off Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously going to have some numbers that are going to matter too when they report, because that's when you get a little bit more of a feeling for how effective they're being, right? The hash rates, just other stuff like that. I think that's all going to lead into it. So I would assume that this is a pretty volatile one off of earnings, regardless of, what Bitcoin is doing at the moment.
I would kind of assume not, honestly.
Okay, you can. Yeah, I mean, one thing that's going to be interesting is to see if they can, put in another beat. I believe last time they had a decent revenue beat. They had about a 9.5% beat on revenue, and that was back Q4 2023. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here. EPS, they've been kind of right on the dot. Slight miss last time, beat before that, miss, beat. So it's kind of been back and forth. But typically,
Market's
when you pull up
closed.
when you pull up the chart just real quick on the daily for Mara off of earnings, like you're going to get some volatility on the days of earnings. Last time was actually a topping point for Mara. It had a pretty big move, about 11% down. The earnings before that, they had a big move down, and then they actually went up a sizable amount the following day. So even regardless of what Bitcoin is doing, Mara can definitely have some 10% moves off earnings.
Akamai, aka M earnings are out. It looks like revenue was a miss. 987. Wall Street wanted 989. At least from that estimate I'm seeing there. Non-GAAP EPS was $1.64. Wall Street wanted $1.61. So mixed results. Board authorizes a new $2 billion share buyback program for Akamai. Yeah, beat EPS, missed revenue there. Ross Stores just announcing the date of when they're going to be reporting. Couple of stuff. I'm really waiting for the Unity and the Mara. I know a lot of people do enjoy looking at the marathons. Stock Talk Marathon. You should it bring any volatility, you think, or just does the earnings matter for a Bitcoin miner?
I mean, it'll affect the other Bitcoin miners. I don't have a position in it, long or short, but yeah, I mean, it'll definitely affect the other Bitcoin miners.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more to say on that one, but that's about all I have to say on that topic. Logical might have more insight into the Mara situation.
Oh yeah, Mara. Wait, they just report right now, huh?
In a second, yeah.
And CLSK too, I believe.
I think CLSK was this morning.
Okay, I don't know. I didn't keep up. How did they report? Was that okay?
I think someone pointed me out that it was. I'll take a look for you and only you right now. CLSK.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like EPS was a beat, or I don't actually have expectations there, but revenue was a beat for CLSK this morning.
Yeah, it looks like it faded a bit. I mean, look, I think it's no secret that, Bitcoin miners, especially the bigger ones, are going to do pretty decent after this halving, in the sense that a lot of their competition, the smaller guys, are going to be flushed out of the system. So it just becomes more and more competitive to be a miner when the rewards are halved, because if you don't reach a certain volume, then think about it, your business is now going to be structurally unprofitable.
I got you. I'll watch Archer.
Miners personally. Like for instance, I'd rather, if I was going to play
how can my forward guidance below expectations?
Is a lot cleaner of a story. But I mean, yeah, clearly they should do well, but I think what I would look for is like the guidance of impact from the Bitcoin halving and what they think, that's going to look like moving forward.
Akamai, by the way, with some weak forward guidance, stocks down about 10% in after hours. Kirk, you got your hand up? I cannot hear Kirk if he is speaking. Insulet, ticker PODD. EPS was 73 cents, beating expectations of 39. And then revenue 442, beating expectations of 424. But Kirk, what's up?
Yeah, no, great point to counterpoint conversation earlier. I was thoroughly entertained, and I want to chime in on a few things. And then my top micro cap had our earnings today. I have a question for you guys, though. What do you think is your bogey? What is your goal for total return in a year on your equity portfolio? I'm just curious to know what you're shooting for. And then the secondary question would be, how much trading do you do to get there?
I'm a 5+ year investor, so I don't really give targets within a year. So that might explain why I'm so bullish on Snowflake. I do trade via hedges on my growth portfolio. I feel like it's frothy. Like right now, I had hedges into Cloudflare and MongoDB entering the year as my hedges. But yeah, that's kind of how I play it. But again, I want to really speak again more on this topic, since it's not fair since he's off the panel. But I just strongly disagree with what he was saying.
Yeah.
I'll make a point. I like to have different spots in my portfolio for different reasons. When I look at something like a Snowflake, I do think that it has become somewhat de-risked moving forward from a valuation perspective. Clearly, it's still rich. But can they do, 20%
Mara, they want
from
180
here on
million
out and deserve that
in
premium
revenue.
multiple? I think that's very possible given the tailwinds.
Yeah,
I think $50 billion starting point is not too big in the sense that, yes, this can become a $250 billion company within a matter of a few years, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah,
5
you got your
years,
Marathon Digital's out.
If you do $250 billion in the next,
Revenue's 165. That's a pretty big miss on
5x.
expectations.
And obviously, you got to take
Vadim.
into account SBC, call it 4x, whatever you want to call it. But that's
Marathon Digital with a
incredible
little
return
move down here.
compared to the S&P 500, right?
This is Benzinga
But
Pro.
of course, I'm a small cap investor, generally speaking.
Benzinga Pro is
So a lot
decent.
of my
I
portfolio
think
and
it's a
the
little
big
expensive.
beats
I don't
come
really
from
know, honestly,
small
but
caps who are undervalued.
it gets the job done. You need to
But,
use it with a bunch of other stuff.
concentrating your entire
But
portfolio
it gets the job done for a lot of
into
stuff. It's good for
100% small
earnings.
caps,
Earnings can be
I think
tough.
that's
Unity
fine. I've done
Software with a
that
big
before,
pump up
but
there.
it
What's
is
that?
really nice to have some anchors in your portfolio, like Amazon's, which are beautiful companies that
Could
are
just be a
just kind of
5-minute
hard to
candle
beat
pump.
at times, and Mercado Libre, which is going to continue to do well. So I've really tried to reduce my bias towards like,
Okay, yeah, that was a fake
if I
candle
want
for
to hit
Unity.
50% a year, I gotta
Yeah, Mara,
sit
not really
in
moving
this
off of
micro
that.
caps and stuff. I
You're
own
chilling,
micro caps, but,
Vadim.
again, like, I have a nano cap reporting tomorrow. Like, I'm okay with that. One of my biggest positions is a Canadian nano cap home builder. Like, I have both in my portfolio. There's room for both. There's no reason to be closed-minded, and I like the fact that you have some stability when you add in the large caps into the portfolio, and I because I'm from a data background. Look, they always tell you, and Peter Lynch will tell you the same, people would be better off investing in things that they understand. Yes, the valuation is a little high, but given the quality, runway, and all those things, it could be worth paying up for a business like this. And yeah, so I think he makes the point in his books where it's like, it's always the doctor buying oil stocks and the oil exec buying healthcare stocks, but it should be the other way around. So for me personally, having firsthand experience with the product of Snowflake, I know exactly how powerful it is. I know how much larger this company can be. I know how easy it is going to be for them to grow, honestly, moving forward. So in that sense, I can easily justify owning a Snowflake.
By the way, a couple more earnings coming out here. I'm seeing Dropbox, EPS was a beat, and revenue was a beat. I'm seeing Progeny, forward guidance was above expectations on EPS, below on revenue. Same thing for the full year I'm seeing. Yes, the same thing for the full year. So forward guidance there, above expectations on EPS, below on revenue. I did see Shy tweeting out those numbers, so let's just go there now. EPS was 39 cents, beating expectations of 13. Revenue was a 278, missing expectations of 289 million. And there's some people like to watch that name. And yeah, Unity Software, I was looking at, and my thing says it should be out around 4:30 p.m. Eastern, so we'll definitely dig into that and have a little bit more time in that direction. Not too many other headlines coming out. Sound like someone was unmuted, but Paper Gains. Hello, how we doing? I'm surprised we didn't get any chime in on when they're talking about Snowflake there. I think we've talked about it enough, but
it was getting plenty heated. I didn't think I needed to add to that one. Let's just let them go.
What else are you watching today? Anything interesting for you?
I'm watching this Unity shenanigans, up, down.
I was looking at that too, actually. I thought the earnings were out when I saw that big green up candle. I was like, what the?
I know. Akamai seems to be out.
Oh, yeah. Akamai's out.
Yeah.
It's down like 10%.
Wait,
Rough.
Paper, have you seen Frog's earnings? I can't find it, but they're down 10%.
JFrog?
Yeah.
No. Let me see. The stock is moving, is what I see. It's pretty illiquid, so I wouldn't really take a whole lot of that.
I do see the numbers. I just need to get the expectations up. Looks like Wall Street wanted 98 million. They reported 100 million on revenue. EPS
16 cents versus 14.
Yeah, so beat on both of those. I don't have any forward guidance or anything.
We got Monative in the house today. I love this.
I don't think we've heard Monative today yet either.
Monative is my one real tech brother that I know definitively comes from my space, and I love it.
What's up, brother? How is my what's up, brother, Wolf? I need to know that at some point, but
Tuesday.
How about
Equinix. What's a showstopper today? Did anybody talk about that?
No, I don't think so.
No. I mean, geez.
Never.
They're wrong. So we used to do like massive deals, and I'm only bringing this up because Manja's here in the house too, which I know he knows, but like all these data center plays, people talking about utilities running up, is that bad for the market? First of all, I'm looking at utilities and thinking, oh, that's probably AI, right? Like the power consumption coming in. And then Equinix was like, I've been building this bag of Equinix down here under 740 down to 700. Just looking at it, getting just shellacked by that short seller report. But man, I couldn't. If there was one thing that this company has, it's cash, man. And I just like, this was probably one of the best companies. All those data centers being built, just so you guys know, they're all Equinix data centers, like all of them. I don't know if Monitor wants to chime in or not. He could totally disagree with me too, but I think this is. I'm just so happy I finally got into this thing. I've been waiting probably like a decade to get like a really good entry, and I think that was one where it was probably mispriced. So we'll see. Anyways.
Yeah, with data centers, after you build a few, your efficiencies in design and execution go through the roof. You could really do a number on your cost side for the build out. So, they're already far ahead. I think and we've not seen much of data center spend from the retail side, from the corporate side, picking up, right? Once that picks up, you're going to see a lot more action in Equinix too, because they're again going to start a larger building program because they can't keep up, right? So there's a lot to like about Equinix, and today's reaction, not surprised. Just like Paper Games, I did not want to wade into this Snowflake story, but Shai, to what you were pondering about, Databricks last valuation was $43 billion at 1.6 billion revenue. That's 50% of.
Ooh, shout out to that one other person who liked the live stream. Shout out.
So, it is what it is. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
I can't believe you didn't throw me a lifeline in the middle of that battle. You had those in the back pocket.
I was very disappointed to see this Rubik's valuation, man. I'm telling you, I was excited about it, but
there was a lot of data points thrown there taken out of context. I mean, there is really no sign at all, zero sign of consumer weakness that's consistent in anything we've seen in the last couple of months. I don't know where that came from. That consumer weakness is
sorry, allergies getting me.
I mean, look, you can always extrapolate data points and get different results, but you've got to be careful to see whether the data is consistent in the first place before you extrapolate the data, right? And this throwing in of SMCI into the rest of the mix, I just don't get. It's a fucking server builder. It's not a semi. That's when
I got heated. Once he threw that, I was like, this does not make sense. You're talking air right now.
Anyway, I was just listening there and I was typing on Discord. I'm like, what is going on here? Right? So
I wanted to make
Can I just quickly finish?
Yeah,
So HubSpot, there is more talk on the street now that they are finalizing, or they're talking prices now. They're talking valuation. HubSpot, is all about. To me, from what I hear from people, is all about roughly 230,000 customers, and HubSpot is only on AWS. That is their cloud provider. Even if they start moving some of those after the deal is done into GCP, it is going to be a big deal for Google. So that's what this deal is about. In addition to the customers, the potential for Google Cloud. So it's even if they overpay, I think in the long run, it's a good use of the money. I mean, these guys are all buying back stock, so it's relative it's in relative terms when you speak about whether they overpay for a growth company. So I'll leave it there, but yeah, I'll chime in with a few other things. Sorry, whoever's speaking, go ahead.
Yeah, Monative, just you were mentioning the Databricks IPO, and it slipped my mind, but it's a good point you brought up. I think a very big reason why we've seen growth not be as high at Snowflake, and what I've heard through the grapevine, is that Databricks, in preparation of their IPO, has been offering more promotional
Union
pricing
Pacific
to drive higher
dividends,
revenue growth, to be able to show that going into the
P Corp
IPO.
dividends,
So that's obviously going to cut into the space, but
Intel.
long term, that's not going to be an issue.
They have. I know that for sure because some of my work in Singapore, they got significant deals to
Double
move.
cannon down.
Most
Unity's
that
earnings
I
still
know
not
of
out.
didn't take it. Some of them that took it, were not anywhere deep into Snowflake implementation in the first place. So it's not like they're losing
Unity
customers.
earnings
It's
are
just
out.
that existing customers. It's just that maybe a little bit of shakeup in their funnel that's falling into Databricks for a discount. I don't see this sustaining. Yeah.
No, I agree. And Monative, I just, for people who don't know, it took our company 18 months to switch, to migrate into Snowflake, to migrate all of our data from our legacy databases into the Snowflake environment. So that's not something, the switching costs are so high. It requires a full engineering team. It requires millions of dollars. It requires 18 months of your data just being, not as accessible. I think once you've nailed the customer down, they're basically your customer more or less for life. And so I think the stickiness of that relationship, and again, that data expands every single day, so your customers are growing with you as a business. So I think that, clearly it's over exaggerated, and I think and again, we're seeing the re-acceleration in cloud growth right now, so I expect them to also see that.
By the way, Unity earnings are out. I'm seeing EPS of negative 75 cents and miss on expectations of negative 65. Although, whatever. Then revenue I'm seeing of 460 million, beating expectations of 431 million. It looks like there's going to be a one-time expense in that EPS number because, yeah, unless this is GAAP EPS, but still. Yeah, Unity. What's the stock doing?
Down 5%.
It was weirdly down a couple percent. A lot of this move happened before the numbers even came out, which is weird. Someone knew? Stock Talk, did you know?
No, I did not know, but I mean, it's about time for them to sell themselves.
Are you buying? Who's buying?
Or somebody should buy. Not me. I mean, I don't have $9.5 billion, unfortunately, but
What?
You made some false promises to us. Then I thought you had the cash.
I unfortunately do not have $9.5 billion in cash. I wish. I wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
Oh, so you don't enjoy us? Are we just colleagues to you? We're not friends?
No, I'm just messing around. No, but I mean, I do think they need to. Me and Shai have talked about this before. I think what was it, 6 months ago that me and Shai talked about this on Spaces. But yeah, they're an appropriate acquisition for one of the big tech guys. I mean, video games are kind of like I don't want to say unpenetrated frontier, but when you're looking at the ecosystems that most of the big tech companies are building, it's like the logical next place. I mean, most of them already have streaming services now. Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, Disney, et cetera, et cetera. You have, that space has been quite well forayed into. It's not a saturated space yet still. I mean, you'll still see subscriber growth on some streaming services. But, as augmented reality and virtual reality become more of a thing, video games will play a huge role in that. And so I think it makes sense for all of the big tech companies to have some kind of video game exposure. I mean, Microsoft, has had the legacy Xbox program for many years. They're looking like they're making changes there to that program in recent weeks. And, these ecosystems are super malleable. I mean, that's the beauty of these big tech companies is you can really overlay value or overlay existing products pretty easily and feed them to the same consumer set. And that's what these guys have done efficiently for a very long time. It's why they're able to grow new verticals so much more quickly than a smaller business would be able to. So, yeah, Unity should sell themselves soon.
Shai, I know that's something that you talk about a bunch. You might be digging into their report right now. No problems if you are.
I can speak on it a little. First off, I thought for sure they're gonna get sold because it was 8 months since the previous CEO resigned, and the rule of thumb is within 6 months in corporate strategy. So obviously they announced a new CEO 2 weeks ago. I think it's bad taste for them to try to sell within a year after hiring a new CEO. But again, I think if I'm a big tech player, like the Netflix, the Metas, why acquire Unity when they're going through this massive org change and going through all the headwinds of going through trimming all the fat from the awful CEO from the prior couple years? Wait until they turn around and find a clean house and look at a legit business and then make an acquisition. So I think it's just a dead stock unless they can actually prove that they're done reorging and there's actually some light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, right now their growth division's down 4% year over year. That's freaking wild. Create's up 17%, but again, that's due to the acquisition, in my opinion. But it's just a mess of a company, and this is the first name I'm on the chop list of I might just cut. I've held it for too long. I'm obsessed with their tech. Their tech is the perfect fit for this new digital world that we're going to be in. That's all about entertainment and eyeballs, and their tech is perfect fit for it. I just hate that their new CEO is from fucking EA Sports. They didn't learn from the previous CEO, John, from whatever his last name. I didn't take the time to learn it because he's an idiot. But he came from EA Sports as well. So I think the board is just not in touch with what the company actually needs. Get an actual developer-first leader within the org, or someone from Microsoft, poach some VP from Microsoft who's developer-focused, and create some kind of excitement on their product, because right now it's acting like this dinosaur of a company that's not having any kind of revolutionary tech, but it's a complete opposite, and they're handling it so poorly. I think the board should be completely removed because they just mishandle. They let John do whatever he
Try
wants.
doing some bars here. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of funny.
And they obviously don't know who their target audience is within their product, and they just hired another EA Sports guy to take over the new CEO role. I don't know who this new CEO is, so I don't want to talk bad about him, but if I was on the board, I'm not going to touch anyone from that EA Sports culture because the prior CEO just fumbled the ball severely. But yeah, Kurt, you have your hand up?
Oh, man, I got all sorts of things to say, but I'll start with that one. Unity is a stock that I have been following since it IPO'd. And I think like a lot of other stocks, it's kind of gone through a double hype cycle. Gartner identifies hype cycles, and I think a lot of these stocks out there are on that path. But because of COVID, they got a second hype cycle, when everybody just started investing in everything. But if you take a look at this chart and then overlay it with the Gartner hype cycle, I think it's right there. Now, I don't know much about the current CEO, but I look at this stock as a bottoming process. And the real opportunity with Unity, and I've studied these guys extensively now, isn't the gaming. I mean, gaming is going to be big because gaming is big. The part of the business that nobody values, nobody gives them any credit for this, is that industry and medicine and astronauts and sports and everybody else is going to incorporate, and the military are incorporating VR and AR into freaking everything. And that is where the massive
Vadim, for you, a little review.
Gaming is a big market. Everything else is a lot bigger. So at some point, these guys probably do get bought, I would imagine. But I don't think it's until they're $100 a share or higher. I think that you can buy this one incrementally over the next quarter or two, and you're probably going to average way over 20% a year for the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. And that's why I asked
Mara
what
is
you guys
moving
really
lower.
target for a rate of return. Me, I'm looking to average 25% a year or greater, because I figure
Come on, Mara, turn around
maybe
for
on
my
my
guy.
best day half as good as Buffett, right? He said with our kind of money, he could make 50%. So I figure I make half what Buffett says. I'm a happy guy. And in my career, I've been just about there, averaging, pushing 25%. I double my money every 3 to 4 years on average, not every 3 to 4 year period. But this is what I'm looking for. So for those of you who are position traders, not swing traders, swing traders swing trade around me, you're going to kick my ass at that. However, with the position trades, I've done pretty well. Remember, I'm a regulated
Are you actually,
guy.
Ollie?
I manage other people's money, so I have to look at this from the standpoint of
Ollie, how's the sound
risk
quality?
management first.
That's pretty cool.
So when I look at Unity, I take a look at, okay, where are they? Do they have a lot of competition? The answer is they're early in their companyness, and they don't have a lot of competition, right? They basically operate within an oligopoly. I love oligopolies. I don't want to be in something with huge competition. So when I take a look at Unity, I'm like, okay, these guys have a leadership position. Roblox is out there, there's a few others, and I think they're going to have pricing power over time, and I think they're going to continue to have huge growth. I don't know if this is the right CEO. I'd rather see them pull an engineer out of somewhere that's not completely game focused. I'd love to see some guy get pulled out of freaking a car company, right? I mean, what could Elon Musk do with this company? And that's what I'm waiting for before I really back in the truck. But I am nibbling on Unity. I'll flip over to Snowflake. I don't have an edge on that company. I don't understand it as well as I probably should. But I like the industry. I've studied Databricks and all the other companies that have gotten into that. It's a very competitive business, but the industry
Do you like them, Ollie?
is
They're
growing
cool so far?
faster than most industries.
And was it because of the conversation we were having, Ollie?
Like that, I've learned over 3 decades.
That'd be funny.
If I have an industry that I know is going to be way above average, like semiconductors have been for 15 years, then I can just buy an ETF, and I can beat the S&P 500 benchmark handily, and then just keep buying the dips, buy the dips, buy the dips. If you
Emperador.
or SMH or something for semiconductors over the last
Doing
15 years,
things.
just buy all the dips. You'd be
Doing things, mod things. No, I went live in the morning. I was live till from like, first of all, ultra low latency. You should be hearing this instantly. It was live at 8:45 till like 10, and then my computer started having some problems, so I logged off and just chilled around. I literally was live for 9 hours yesterday, so I mean, I know it's easy, but it's a little draining the time. And then we're just hanging out today, trying to like take a little bit of a break.
You better be a rock star, and you better
Emperador. I was also trying to get the Dan Niles video edited and put away so that can go up today. Not feeling too optimistic that's going up today. So the Dan Niles interview might be a tomorrow thing. I really want to get it up. That's what she said.
But I know that industry is kicking ass.
No time. There's no time. But that's what she said. Shout out The Office.
AI is the first thing since the internet that I've seen in 30 years that rises to that level. AI is transformational.
Ooh,
so
Vadim, Mara's coming back a little bit for you. We need more.
Do ETFs, but I don't know. I couldn't take a side in that Snowflake battle. I think for the high growth investor, if you really have an edge on that company, hey, then go for it. But if you don't have an edge on that company, it's tough.
We might get to 13,
Real quick,
30 watch hours.
Real quick before I pass it to Logical, I forgot one point to make about Unity. They couldn't have had a worse 2023 operationally. They had minimal churn. Barely any customers left. I think that was a major test of how sticky their product actually is. They didn't really add anyone new, but they didn't really lose anyone. And I think that if they get the right leader in place that's just smart enough to not fuck up, and to know your target audience, your target base of the developers, this thing could be a massive winner, like Kirk was saying.
Yeah, they could be. It will
Shy
take
hates the
management
Unity
and execution, right?
management with a
And I
passion.
don't
You
think
can
it's
tell.
an industry. I don't think that competition will not get there, right? Anything that's got a good industry, it attracts competition, right? That's just the law of economics. All right, two other things before I get to my thing. Boeing. I have a client who actually is going through the process of getting certified to make some of their stuff. It takes forever. And Boeing needs different distributors, needs to fix their supply chain. Boeing has a huge backlog of business, and it's hard to compete with them because it's just, it'll take $1 zillion to build a new Boeing. It would be harder than building a brand new car company. And I just don't see how Boeing turns around quickly. So as an investor, I know something over time is that people get tired of waiting. And Boeing doesn't have all the old men hanging onto the dividend anymore, right? They haven't had a dividend in 4 years. So you don't have the boomers buying the stock. It's not growth go-go stock. I'm taking a look at their chart and the fair value gaps, which are quant-driven. It's pretty easy to see Boeing getting down to around $100 a share. At that point, I'd probably be super interested in it. But way up here at 181, which people say, well, it's not that high. It's been 400. Well, they really have fucked up. And it just can't be fixed quickly. So I don't see value in it. I think you're speculating if you buy it now. I just think it's a hard stock. I'll move on to the next thing. So the next thing, you guys talked about utilities. Some of my clients made me study utilities, and we have a good one here in Wisconsin, WEC. They are a majority owner of American Transmission Company, which is helping to build out a lot of the grid in the Great Lakes region and down to Texas and Georgia and a couple other places. I've gotten to know that industry
Ula,
very
so it
well.
doesn't get the
And what I
like the
will
links
say
at the
is
top.
that
Yeah, I thought I would do that a little bit.
companies that do well are going to
I tried to do it more, but then it messed it up. This actually isn't really what I want. I want it to be so it's literally like you get none of the link part of the top, and it's just everything below that.
WEC is a good one there. However, here's
But
my
yeah, I
secret
did that on
claim
purpose.
utilities. And it's because you guys are talking about it today. Marathon Digital, I mentioned them once.
Ula, welcome to the chat as well. I think it's the first time I've seen you speak here. Thanks for coming.
Texas, where they just
Giving the live stream a
that they're gonna
chance.
have power problems all summer. I'll tell you what, Marathon Digital is already a legitimate independent power producer, but they pay for everything out of cash flow. And by the way, they have a war chest of Bitcoin, and for as long as they can make money on that, they're going to have that. I think Marathon Digital triples in market cap easy.
Wow.
Easy.
Vadim,
in
you
the
hear
next
this?
10 years without, even if Bitcoin didn't go up. I, of course, think Bitcoin's a 3 to 30 bagger, hard to know where, over the next decade. So I take a look at Marathon Digital as not just a Bitcoin miner, but also all the other things that they're getting into, with regard to the compute. But as a independent power producer, if you compare them to a utility, they might be the best small utility in America. In fact, I don't know that I can't find a better company that produces 1.2 gigawatts of energy. So I buy Marathon Digital for that. Now, I have a quarter of my money, a quarter of my portfolio is Bitcoin now. And it didn't start that way. It just grew to be that much. And I've become a believer that Bitcoin is going to be an international currency hedge so that when the dollar gets too strong or too weak, they have something else that they can use to do international transactions. I don't know that we'll ever buy our pizza with it. However, I mean, that whole thing, if people aren't grasping how AI and Bitcoin and the energy system all work together at this point, I'm going to be in Texas next week at the oil convention, Super Doug in Fort Worth. I'm going to see people I haven't seen in 7 years, I think. And
keep you with the spaces.
I know that they're talking about AI and blockchain. Oil guys. That's what the oil guys are talking about. So this is the world we live in now. And I just think that people have to go back to first principles and say, okay, what are the secular trends? And I know
Hey
somebody
mods,
said
if
something
Emperador
earlier
says
about
anything bad about
semiconductors
Apple
being
while I'm
cyclical.
gone, ban him.
That's old news, man. I tell you what, semiconductors haven't been cyclical in over 15 years. They have little cycles, but they've been secular leaders for a long time and will be for another 10 to 20 years at least, if not longer. Just like AI will be. But AI is going to drip into industry, and you're going to see pharma companies and industrial companies. The margin expansion in companies that use AI well in the future is going to blow you away. It's going to knock your socks off because they're going to increase their revenue and increase their production, and they're never going to see their costs go up ever again. Their fixed costs are going to just stay fixed. Their labor costs are never going to go up. They're just going to become more and more productive. We're, at the end of a 12 or 15 year period with almost no productivity growth. If you take a look at the super long-term cycles, we are entering, and I can't tell if it's next month or in a quarter or a year, we are entering one of the biggest productivity booms in the history of the world right now. And if you can wrap your mind around that, you should become a millionaire just by living a little bit beneath your means and socking money away into the better industries.
Just real quick, Kurt, I think what Logical is saying, well, first of all, so for people that are listening, not all semiconductors are the same, right? Not all semiconductor companies are the same. So there is a cyclical nature. So I think maybe to clarify that statement, I won't put words in your mouth, but for me, clarify that statement. When you're looking at the GPU and the high compute space, that's a secular trend that's probably not going to experience any type of cyclicality for another couple of years. But we are literally maybe just coming out of like the analog side when it comes to chip demand, and then some DRAM. We are coming out of a cyclical cycle that we were in for literally a year and a half, 2 years. So I think we definitely need to split it out and say some semiconductors are definitely cyclical for sure. If you're looking at semiconductors utilized in laptops, right? Refresh cycles are getting elongated. You see the same thing with handsets. That is a cyclical market. I mean, Apple's experiencing that literally right now. But I think if you're talking about high compute, yes, I think that right now that is definitely something that's cyclical, and having exposure to that specific slice of that industry, right, or secular, right? If you have that slice of that particular industry, I think you are.
You should subscribe to Emperador.
It might take some time, and it might actually be fairly quick, because I think Logical is onto something. I mean, we see the same thing over and over when you talk about cycles, right? There's this huge amount of demand. There's this huge buildup. There's going to be double ordering that occurs. As long as NVIDIA can continue to try to revolutionize and create a software ecosystem, which they are, if they can create that and sustain that.
Emperador, if you're a real fan, say something in the chat right now.
Business moving forward outside of hardware, because hardware will hit a peak at some point when it comes to this GPU space. There's nothing that you're gonna get, to get around that. We continue to think about hardware and we need as much hardware, we need as much hardware as possible. But people are literally forgetting the fact that software plays a bigger role in compute in the long term and your efficiencies on modeling than any type of hardware that you have. That's one thing. Two, when you're talking about Marathon Digital, I think we also need to kind of just make a mention here. They get paid by the state of Texas to not mine.
Correct.
Right? So they're not putting energy back into the grid. They're just not drawing on the grid. Right, so that.
No. They are all set up to sell energy into the grid now.
Well, hold on. This is what I mean. They are set up to do that, but also to be able to ramp down their own operations. They can't do both at the same time, right? So I think we also have to kind of and dude, they made so much money on that. What was it? Was it last year when they had when it got super cold in Texas? Was it last year? Or was it the year before? You remember that? Dude, they made $138 million in a quarter. It was half the revenue for them not to
And when it's 195 degrees there in 2 months, they're gonna make a whole bunch more money.
Yeah, so do you think that from your channel checks, here's the question that I have. I wanted to clarify that the majority of that money is for them not to draw on. But the question is, from your channel checks, I'm not sure if you actually talked to their leadership staff or what have you, but from your channel checks, do you believe that that's the next ramp for this company? Because I'm scouring their investor relations page, and I don't hear them making any mention on the power side of their business and how they're trying to make that into one. Do you think that that's something that they will transition to, or they are looking at?
Yeah. So here's the thing with Bitcoin mining. It clearly becomes more and more difficult to make a lot of money mining, right? Every halving. So they have to have a natural transition over the next 2 or 3 halvings to be in a whole different sort of company. And I think that they need to build their Bitcoin bankroll, right? They need to not sell as much as they sell. But I think they're there. I think that happened in the last 2 quarters. The energy production, again, and you go back to Jeremy Grantham or any of the other people who are watching this, is huge, right? And they've done something with ramping up their clean energy production so fast that none of the utilities have done, right? Because all the utilities have these huge balance sheets where, and they're slow-moving bureaucracies. The CEO of I forget his name right now, but of Marathon was on Bloomberg a week ago, 2 weeks ago, right before he had to shut his mouth going into earnings, right? And he hinted at all this stuff, so I imagine it becomes more front and center. But I think that Marathon probably doubles to triples their clean energy output in the next few years. And I think that because of AI sucking so much energy from... Somebody mentioned that earlier today, about AI sucking energy out of the grid. Marathon is just in a great spot, right? I mean, I think
I have
that
a lot of
Bitcoin
different
becomes
ones.
their backup business. And now that means
A
that they
couple on the
won't
screen
grow
here are
1,000,000%
good.
a
Good
year
places
anymore.
to start. Some of them are
At
expensive.
some point, they have a fortress balance sheet. They're getting there.
Yeah,
you know,
I just
Bitcoin
don't care.
keeps going up. They're gonna have
Maybe I should
fortress
stream on
balance
Twitch,
sheet
but it's just
way
CBI.
better than
I
any
can't be
other
asked.
utility in America. They'd be as big as WEC, which is a company I'm in, on the amount of power production.
Y-Charts is fun to
pretty
use.
quickly. You know, they just they'd be hands down. I think they'd be the best utility company in America if they said that that's what they were. And to me, it's just a matter of time. I don't know if it's 1 halving or 2 halvings or 3 halvings, but it's coming. And for, again, if your target is to make 20 plus 25% per year and have time to go out and do other shit, it's on that list. And I have a very narrow list, right? I screened the whole market, and I come up with 200 to 300 stocks to even, open their investor relations page, and then I get it down to, under 100 that I monitor pretty closely, and thank God for AI, or I couldn't. What I can do now versus what I could do 20 years ago is night and day, man. If you guys were looking at stocks in the 1990s, it would be mind-boggling how much work you had to do to understand 4 companies. Today you can understand 40 companies in the same amount of time. And who's the catalyst trader here? He does that, and that is just, pretty amazing to me. Being the old Xer that I am. I think I ran my mouth on Twitter today earlier. But, I think Marathon is undervalued by 70% right now. I think it should be a $60 stock right now. And I think that it probably gets there during the next Bitcoin rally, because that's how people think about it. But then when they hit the news headlines, and it's going to happen this summer, they're going to be in the headlines for selling energy to keep, Dallas-Fort Worth from browning out.
Bola, Finviz is a really good tool. It's a free one. I like to use it as like a market screener and stuff. So like market cap,
I think that Marathon
large,
Digital is an easy one. I think it's a pretty easy
best
triple
performers,
in the next
change it, best large cap
good enough
stocks
for
for the
you.
day.
I think
Worst. There's some data on here that's not super accurate, but the price moves tend to be pretty solid. I like
just
Finviz.
wanted to circle back to
Look
the
at this
idea
stuff.
that semis are not
Heat maps
cyclical
too.
anymore. Obviously, I'm a very big believer. I've read a ton of books on physics of the future and everything's going to have a chip in it. So I'm a very big proponent of the secular nature of
Kind of tired though, I can't lie.
That said, it's still like if you think about semis as a, you know, like let's think about a straight line
Video's
going
interesting.
up over
You
time.
can see the FinViz on here, right?
In reality, it's not just going to be a straight line like x equals y. It's going to be some sort of, you know, harmonic function that's going like a sine wave that's going up on that, around that line, to up and to the right. So ultimately, in a lot of these industries, you're going to see exactly what we talked about. It's kind of like the bullwhip effect. You have all this customers, you have all
Paul,
this demand.
are you here?
It just becomes a supply demand.
Paul, if you're here, guess how many watch hours we have.
I understand that the AI wave right now, it can last for, I don't know how long it's going to last for in terms of this cycles until they meet all the demand. But to think that we're not going to get to a point where we
are at 25.2
chips at some point because every person who needs a chip already gets one. I mean, it always happens this way. And, you know, in terms of cyclicality, you know,
not
NVIDIA
bad.
was down 70% in 2022. Of course, that's
the all-day one we did like 2 days ago was like 120 or something.
Longer, but that's a very
slowly building.
You know, drawdown for a semi, and you know, you can say, well, Meta was down 70% too. Well, the ad market.
Yeah, last year's now. It got up to like 20. It was pretty good. Let's see.
The digital ad market is up and to the right.
This says the concurrence was up.
Well, that's why I keep, you know, certain industries
20.
like
it says we got up to like 22.
semis, crypto in the cyclical hold bucket on my portfolio.
And we were holding there for like 20 minutes
I
or
just
so.
think that we're gonna get to a point, and it's, you know, it's always like this. You know, when
exactly.
People make the arguments of, you know, the earnings aren't that high. But
no, like, dude.
Once we get to a point.
Last week when I was doing these spaces, or even just earlier, there was like no one. And there was like 1 or 2 people and stuff like that. And now we got Paul, and we got Vadim, and we got Ali, etc., who are becoming some regulars in here. And I definitely appreciate that. So we're building the bricks. We're not starting from zero. I feel like I'm firmly have the, you know, 1 in sight, and then we built to 2 and 3 and get all the way up to 10. But I've enjoyed this, and it's really nice to see a couple core people like yourself and a couple people in here killing it. I think each time we get 1 new core person who comes in a couple times, 1 or 2 people, and you build something pretty strong. 9 likes, nice. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, hey, everyone in here, if you're subscribed, make sure you also hit the bell button right next to the subscription thing. That will send you a notification whenever I go live or whenever I post a video. I have an interview that I did with Dan Niles. That's going to be posted soon. You guys are 100% going to want to watch that and listen to that. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, hit the notification bell, hit that bell button, get notified. Jesus, it's been a long day. I need to get off this thing. Get notified whenever I post something. And yeah.
I remember buying Micron when it was $10 a share and selling it when it was $30, and people told me I was dumb both times. And at this point, though, since about 15, 16, you know, so about a decade now, and I think you can argue further back, the cyclicality is very narrow, so it's more ebb and flow. It's not boom and bust. So, is there cyclicality? Sure. But the demand for semiconductors is going to rise as far out as the eye can see. And to me, if I can say 20 years, that might as well be forever. I think that you're going to see semiconductor demand increase for 20 years. I think the odds of us meeting the supply and getting rid of the backlogs, from everything I've read, is no sooner than the early 2030s. So you're looking at almost a decade. So yeah, is there tradable cyclicality in there because of reflexivity, right? I mean, apply the lessons of reflexivity there. Absolutely. But are the dynamics of supply and demand ever going to get to the point where semiconductors are boom and bust? You know, maybe when I'm dead, but it's not going to be for a long time. So that when I talk about secular and cyclical, that's how I'm thinking about it. I take a look at something like copper. Copper has been hugely cyclical.
7th straight winning day for the
right?
Dow Jones.
Build a mine. Suddenly we have too much copper. We find a way to use it. Now we have to build
Appreciate
another
you,
mine.
Ollie.
We're short until the mine gets built. At this point, we're probably 7 or 8 super mines below what we need to be for the demand that we know that is there, which is why Anglo American, which is just a shit operation, is getting bid up, or private equity and BHP are after it. There's a shortage of copper, and that means that at least for 10 to 20 years, copper is going to exhibit much more narrow cyclical tendencies than it has in the past. So you can say that copper is probably in a secular cycle. If you think about secular in terms of a secular trend lasts at least a generation, right? And usually it lasts 2. I don't know if we're going to be short on copper for 2 generations, but we might be, because it's just hard to get copper out of the earth and not destroy the earth and have every NIMBY, get mad. So, that's just kind of how I think about it. Sure, there's some cyclicality in semiconductors right now, but the secular supply-demand imbalance is so huge and the growth is so big that those cyclical things that were there pre 2015-16 aren't anywhere near as big as they used to be, I guess would be my point. So you can just buy a semiconductor ETF and go fishing if you really want to, and just buy stocks or SMH on the dips.
Now you're talking Kevin's language. Kevin's got a cool fishing trip coming up. I got to hear about it. I'd love to get on it. Maybe we get a Spaces fishing trip coming up at some point.
There you go. Are you guys walleye, lazy walleye, or time-intensive, hard-work musky fishermen?
I'm a bass fisherman that has turned into a walleye and crappie fisherman after moving out here. But I really fish for bass. But I'm going to Alaska, do some salmon fishing. So.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Unfortunately.
Stock Talk, you big fish guy? Do you have any thoughts on the conversation being had? And
I'm more of a steak guy. I'm not a fisher.
I more meant the fishing part of it, not the eating it. But
I like fishing for stocks. That's what you mean.
Oh, but
thoughts on what?
That
was quite the conversation.
Well, anything from it to be sure, but also just kind of talking about some of the catalysts that you were watching this morning. Any earnings reports that were interesting to you?
Yeah, we actually played Affirm today, which is a stock that I have traded many, many times, and it's always been good to me. We always time it really well. So Affirm actually fell yesterday after the earnings reports pretty substantially, and JP Morgan had their first rating change on the stock in about 3 years. And so we felt that was notable. We shared it with members this morning. I'll read an excerpt from that note. And Affirm, by the way, was higher by 10% today from the open. But
all right, everyone. That is going to be it for this live stream here. I'm going to close this space out in a couple minutes anyway. Go get some food. I have some meetings and stuff I have to do. I appreciate you guys for joining in here. Ollie, Paul, Vadim, a couple other unregulars too. What happened to Bula? Messages retracted. Oh well. I hope none of you guys blocked him or anything. Huh. Weird. I'll have to look into that. I hope none of you guys are doing anything. Just by the way, as mods, don't really block or write anyone could put what they want. I don't care. But yeah, I will see you guys all tomorrow. I'm probably gonna be live in the morning only, not in the afternoon. It's Friday. Tend to towards the end of the day get a little bit low, but I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Expect that Dan Niles video to be posted soon, very soon, hopefully. Go and clicking on my page and watch that last short that I posted and give it a like. See if the algorithm helps with that. But that's all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this afternoon live stream. I hope you guys will join me again tomorrow. Hit that bell button so you get notifications whenever I go live. And I'll catch you guys all later. See ya.